That's the third highest percentage that any Democrat's ever gotten. Only 2 Democrats have done better. FDR 3 times, maybe 4, and Lyndon Johnson. So Barack Obama, and that landslide is about the same as the 2 that Clinton got. Not to mention that it really made the map look much nicer with all that extra blue in it. That was good. But that 53%, Democrats don't get majorities. Carter barely did. Clinton never did. Truman didn't. JFK didn't. Woodrow Wilson, they don't get majorities. Obama got 53% and climbing. That's huge, in my opinion. It's a big deal for a Democrat. We can be proud of that. And he was explicit about what he was for most of the time when he did it. So the bottom line here is I'm going to savor this. I encourage you to. I know there'll be disappointments later on, but there'll be time for that later. And to me, this, I guess I'll conclude with, to me this campaign was, the whole thing was like a great book that you're reading. And you have that weird feeling where you want to hurry up and see what happens, but you also don't want it to end, which of course is a paradox that you can't get through. And you love every page. I don't know, I remember that when I read Man's Hope or Grapes of Wrath or any of Marge Piercy's great novels, and I couldn't put them down. And at the end of it, I thought, God, that was so good. And I was happy, sad that I was done. And that's the way this campaign is. This campaign has been like a great novel about America. And it had a happy ending Tuesday. It was a good ending. And it was because of the work that progressives in the past and some of us in this room did on things that we care about, and we should not let that go. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. And finally, it's my great pleasure to introduce our last panelist, Bill Fletcher, Jr. Bill is the Director of Field Services and Education for the American Federation of Government Employees. He has also served as the Executive Editor of BlackCommentator.com. Prior to joining AFGE, Bill was the Bell Zeller Visiting Professor at Brooklyn College, City University of New York. From January 2002 through April 2006, he served as the President and Chief Executive Officer of Trans-Africa Forum, a national nonprofit organization organizing, educating, and advocating for policies in favor of the peoples of Africa, the Caribbean, and Latin America. We are also pleased and proud to call Bill Fletcher, Jr. a Senior Scholar of the Institute for Policy Studies. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you. First, good afternoon. And I want to thank IPS for putting this together. And I need to give a very important disclaimer that what I'm about to say does not reflect the views of my employer, the American Federation of Government Employees. The theme of my remarks is 24, and not the television show. Prior to the election, in different talks that I would give, people would say, well, how much of a honeymoon period should there be for Obama? And I said there absolutely needs to be a very adequate honeymoon period, and we should give him 24 hours. and so the 24 hours, in my opinion, are up. But I want to first speak to the first 24 hours. Like many other African Americans, my stomach was in absolute knots on the evening of November 4th, not knowing what was going to happen. I don't trust the white electorate, and I didn't believe the polls. So I didn't know what exactly was going to happen. And when I was actually in the process of being interviewed, and the results are coming in, and see what you got to understand is that on election night I go to sleep, right? I don't watch the returns. To me, it's too nerve-wracking, right? I just go to sleep and I say I'm gonna wake up the next morning and see what happens, right? But this evening I was compelled to. And I was watching this and with absolute disbelief. I made a point of not sending in an absentee ballot, but standing in line. And as I just recently wrote in something, I had to have the experience of touching the machine. Doing the ballot thing just wasn't going to work. I had to go in there. I had to stand 2.5 hours in line with hundreds of other African Americans, get there and touch that machine and just grin like a Cheshire cat. And so when this unfolded, I was in utter disbelief. And like many other people I've talked to, I danced around the house, and I can't dance. I cried. I screamed. I got on the phone and called many of my closest friends and comrades and called my parents, my daughter, and we all screamed together because it was just such an unbelievable moment. And I'm not going to lose that moment. So don't worry. However, the clock has struck and those 24 hours are gone. And now we have to face some real challenges, it seems to me. So we have to begin with understanding that, and for this audience, this is obvious, that this man is not a savior. Now, I say that because in many other audiences, he is. And this becomes very important at the level of political work when we're talking about holding him accountable, that particularly among African Americans, there's going to be an incredible amount of defensiveness for Obama for quite some time. You know, this is, I mean, the historic importance of this election can't be overstated. And for that reason, there'll be many people that will watch things happen that they do not agree with, but are going to be very silent, and they're going to be upset with those of us that raise criticisms. And that has to be factored in when we're going forward. It should not mean that we're silent, but it means that many of us are going to catch hell. And many of us are going to be hit with the idea that we should extend a longer honeymoon period to let things come into place, let Obama work some things out. But my argument is that while we have been screaming with joy, some other people have been planning. And there's some things that we should watch that I think are a bit unsettling. John Podesta being the head of the Transition Committee and Emmanuel being asked to be the Chief of Staff, and rumors about Larry Summers being considered for Treasury Secretary do not make me feel that warm and fuzzy feeling. You know, what it starts to feel like then is a Clinton retread. And there are those that have said, well, Bill, wait a minute, calm down. He may be just doing this to appease the Clintons, and then after a while he'll bring certain things together. And that may be true, but I don't bet on that. And I don't bet on that because Obama's platform in running, and this is one of the reasons I was a critical supporter of his. I was not an Obama fanatic. Obama's platform was ambiguous on a number of things. And I think that what we should understand is that the mandate that he's received, and I do think I differ with Ralph Nader on this, he did receive a mandate, but the mandate is vague. The mandate is twofold. One is that there needs to be an immediate response to the economic crisis that needs to be focused on the needs of Main Street, so-called, of regular people. I think that's one part of the mandate. The other part of the mandate is on foreign policy, which is that something needs to be done so that the United States isn't hated around the world the way that it is. Now, these are vague, and you